Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, no Luka Doncic, no Marcus Smart as the Lakers take the floor in Toronto. It's actually shaping up to be a tricky weekend. Plus, Giannis wants out. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one podcast network in this or any other known universe. We certainly appreciate you tuning into the show, however you get your podcasts, whether that's through Apple iTunes, Spotify, maybe you're a subscriber, one of 37,000 plus on the YouTube channel. However you do it, we certainly appreciate it. And I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, $20 off your first purchase. I think, Andy, people have heard that Giannis Antetokounmpo wants out of Milwaukee. He has already asked to be traded. He actually got hurt in.
To be clear, just so people don't misinterpret, he has not made a recent, as in the last, I believe, 12 to 24 hours trade demand. Brian Windhorst was on, I want to say ESPN Cleveland, and in breaking down some of the backstory of this, said that Giannis had mentioned to the Bucks sometime leading into this season that he was interested in getting traded. There were some sort of soft conversations with the Knicks that didn't go anywhere. The Knicks reportedly his first choice team, very, very much top of the list. And we are now at a place now where reportedly Team Giannis and Team Bucks are going to be sitting down and discussing beyond Giannis's medical condition, what might be the best.
He got hurt in Wednesday's game.
Right. It is. It's interesting. It was originally being reported as a non-contact injury, calf, which has everybody understandably freaking out. Achilles tear. According to an ESPN report, the Bucks have ruled out an Achilles tear. So thankfully, that seems to not be the case. But in any event, I just wanted to make sure people did not think that Giannis has demanded a trade in the last 12 hours, because I don't think that's accurate.
No, but it seems the writing seems to be on the wall that,
it could be coming the next 12 hours.
Milwaukee is running short. And of course, Andy, that means you got to fire up the Giannis, the Lakers machine and see what pops out. Chris Paul is also out with the Clippers. Another player constantly connected to the Lakers, and there will be no more chances after this year to make Chris Paul a Laker finally happen. So all of that is stuff that we will unpack over the course of this episode. But we got to start, Andy, with the road trip, which is already off to a tricky start. The Lakers will take the floor Thursday evening in Toronto without Marcus Smart. No surprise there, but we learned on Wednesday that Luka Doncic will also be, won't be at that game. He is away from the team for personal reasons. And so the Lakers, Andy, against a good Raptors squad. I know some people weren't so sure about what Toronto would be this year. Turns out the answer is pretty good. And the Lakers will be taking the floor against the Raptors shorthanded.
Yeah, I spoke on my weekly ESPN LA 710 Lakers show, Lakers Talk, with Sean Woodley, who hosts Locked on Raptors. This was Wednesday night. And a couple of things that he talked to me about previewing this game that jumped out as particularly important with the matchup against the Lakers. The Raptors are very good at inducing turnovers and then turning those turnovers into points. And as we saw really throughout the season, but especially against the Suns, if the Lakers do not do a good enough job taking care of the ball, they are exceptionally vulnerable to points off turnovers. He also noted that the Raptors are very good at grabbing a defensive board and then running from there. It's just in general, they're a very athletic, disruptive, long team that looks to, as Sean put it, run the ball down your throat whenever they can. So given how vulnerable the Lakers are defending in transition under the best of circumstances, it's something they really need to be careful of. Also, in talking about Scottie Barnes' defense, it's not just that he's the best player defensively on the team. He's their best shot blocker. He's everywhere defensively. So they're going to have to keep their heads on a swivel, in particular for Barnes defensively, because he really is the engine of what has become a very disruptive defense. Like that on paper, beyond Barnes, they don't profile to be an exceptionally strong defense, but Barnes does so much. He allows everybody else to be sort of the top end version of what they can be.
Yeah, and Jakob Poeltl's a pretty stout fellow in the middle. They've got some guys, but like Scottie Barnes has just been insanely good this year, like across categories. One of the knocks against him had been, things like efficiency, 3-point shooting. Both of those are, big this year. Toronto is well over 500 and, right in the middle of things in the Eastern Conference. They've been missing RJ Barrett for, a week and a half or so, but haven't really missed a beat without him. Brandon Ingram has played very well for them. They're a good team playing well, and again anchored by Scottie Barnes. The Lakers have played 4 games this year without Luka, so that's not something that's brand new to them. They've played games without Marcus Smart, also not brand new. And, this is one of these games where, coming back off of a terrible game on, was it Tuesday against the Suns, right? When was that game?
Monday.
Monday. Right. Thank you. Coming off a terrible game there. A lot to prove, especially at the start of a very challenging road trip. And, Austin Reaves has stepped up in these situations, Andy, without Luka on the floor. He has been very good. We've seen Jake LaRavia step up in these situations. Deandre Ayton look good. We're always curious who's going to have the Nick Smith Jr. game. It could be Nick Smith Jr., but, I think people understand what we mean when we say that, like the random guy who you're not expecting, who steps up and plays and delivers a bunch of production. But Andy, presuming he plays Thursday and not Friday, because he presumably will not play in both. LeBron James, I think, is the guy that everybody's looking at to see, like, okay, there was a time for the LeBron ramp up to ramp up. It'll be one of these games.
Well, we talked about, for Wednesday's show, not just LeBron's showing in that game, which was very bad and probably one of the worst games of LeBron's career, much less Lakers' career, but the question of what he is physically capable of doing right now, because I think some of LeBron's pretty much career low production this season, small sample size, all the caveats, it is in part because he's still ramping up from having missed training camp, no preseason, all that stuff, coming off sciatica, age, but also his role has not been, I think, clearly defined with this team. And if anything, over 5 games, I think his role has become fuzzier. I think situations like this where Luka isn't playing, assuming LeBron does, might start providing some clarity about how much of this is still figuring out the fit versus how much of this is still physical, and how much of this is what LeBron truly can or cannot do purely from a physical basis. The other guy I'm going to be watching for, because I think the matchup on paper, he's somebody that you would almost build in a lab for this team, but also because if he doesn't play in this game, dude is basically buried under the bench, is Jared Vanderbilt. Like if Vando does not play, I'm not saying 30 minutes, but if he doesn't play at least 15 to 18 in this game,
in a game, right? In a game again, no Luka, no Marcus Smart,
and it's a bunch of rangy long wings that, again, like Jared Vanderbilt is, at least on paper, in the NBA to guard guys like that. And also, too, we've talked about, like,
he's your Huckleberry here.
Without Marcus Smart, this team lacks an energy and an urgency and a physicality, an edge. And for all of Vando's imperfections and flaws, and we've been through all of them, they exist. Those are things that he always brings. And those are elements that this team, I think, especially without Marcus Smart, it's been pretty glaringly obvious they miss. Again, if Vando ain't playing in this game against Toronto, I don't know if he's ever going to play again.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll pick this up after the break. Like, the Vanderbilt thing is interesting. The rest of the road trip, the rotation is interesting. This notion of sort of stepping up in how the Lakers kind of bounce back from bad games is something. This is another one of those kind of prove it road trips. A well-placed loss heading out on the road will do that. So we'll break all those things, plus Giannis's future and CP3, all next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood predictions markets change the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but not in a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You are no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin.
It's going to be, you would think, an all hands on deck kind of weekend for the Lakers, starting Thursday in Toronto, turning around right away and playing at the very least a Celtics team that isn't great, but plays very hard and is above 500 despite missing Jason Tatum. They traded Kristaps Porzingis. They are obviously in a bit of a gap year here. And then turn around and you play Philadelphia on Sunday, who always have Maxey, as a superstar in the backcourt, and you may get the rest of their good players, you may not. But the Sixers are been surprisingly, capable at different times this year, and the Lakers are going to enter this with no Luka, certainly for Thursday. I don't know if he's going to play on Friday. The Lakers didn't make any announcements about that, but obviously when you're away from the team in a back-to-back situation, you may not make it back in time. So we'll see what's going on with that. They've done really well in these kinds of situations. I don't know if it's a matter of the adversity focuses them a little bit more, whatever it might be. But these types of games, the Lakers have tended to show up and outperform expectations. I would like, obviously, to see them do that again.
Well, I think it is at least fair to speculate that the situation brings out an urgency, because we've seen when the situation lays out on paper that this should be an easy win, they often treat it like it should be an easy win, and we're not going to put in even 1 percentage point more effort than is necessary. So if that's the way, we've got plenty of proof that they will treat the easy games. I think it is safe to say that a situation, for example, like it was Portland, correct, where they played without Luka, LeBron, and Austin and won the game. And
correct.
Other times where they've been shorthanded against good teams, I would think this could bring out some focus in them, especially too. They are coming off the heels of a really frustrating and I think embarrassing loss to the Suns. Not that losing to the Suns in and of itself is embarrassing, because they have certainly exceeded my expectations and the expectations of a lot of people. But it was the Suns. They lost Devin Booker during this game. They already didn't have Grayson Allen, and they kicked the bleep out of the Lakers on basically every single front possible. You had Dylan Brooks running his mouth the entire game, and you know what? He earned it. He outplayed every single Laker out there. But like, those are the type of things that I think can be a wake-up call for a team.
You can lose. Like, the Lakers got their asses kicked by the Thunder. You know why? Because the Thunder are better than they are. And the Thunder happened to be playing, I think, a good game that night.
I mean, they kick everyone's ass.
Right. And they've been doing that to everybody. The Lakers didn't play particularly well, but I think they tried. They showed up. I mean, to a man, whether you're talking about JJ Redick or people in the locker room, they didn't play harder enough on Monday. They just got outworked. And I think that's the thing, that if you're a professional team with real aspirations, that's the part you look at and say, we have to do better. Like, I don't know if they're going to win Thursday evening. I really don't. And if I do, I can't tell you. But I do think they're going to play harder. Like, if they don't come out and play harder than they did against Phoenix, that to me would be very disappointing. They may not play better, but they really ought to play harder.
I cannot think of a reason for them not to be dialed into a game against a good Raptors squad, given the guys that they're going to be missing. There's just no rationale for it.
The Vando thing, before we get to the future Lakers, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Paul, go ahead and get your jerseys now, because it's an inevitability, because Lakers. Redick did explain, or at least discuss, why Vanderbilt isn't playing. He addressed the question. He didn't get into a lot of detail about what Vando's doing wrong. You can sort of read in between the lines. What was your reaction as a Vando honk, for lack of a better term?
I mean, it doesn't necessarily go against the grain of anything I've thought with JJ. I mean, he described it as, in a lot of ways, as a numbers game, and he said that if you're on a winning streak, it's hard to change a rotation. I have made it pretty clear that while I don't think Vando necessarily needs to be playing 25 to 30 minutes a night, I think there's a role for him on this team, because he brings certain things that most guys on the roster don't. And I also think that JJ is a coach that, generally speaking, skews offense, skews spacing, and Jared Vanderbilt doesn't bring a lot of either. And I think he is somebody that is just going to have to raise his game 25% extra to what it would normally be acceptable, I think, to really earn JJ Redick's trust. Like, even acknowledging, again, Vando's flaws, even as somebody who has been a proponent of Vando, I've never denied what they are. I just think that, especially with this team at full strength, with the offensive firepower that they should have, and I think more properly spread around, I think there should be ways to find a role for Vando. And JJ also said after the Phoenix loss, which you could tell irritated the bleep out of him, that a lot was going to be on the table for reevaluation. So between the way he talked about Vando before the game, the way he talked about the team after the game, and the current situation, again, I would be more surprised if Vando didn't play than if he did. And again, if he doesn't, it just means he might as well stop showing up to these games. But, like, for example, I got to be honest, I think there's more of a reason to play Vando than Dalton Connect. Like, even with with whoever's missing or whatever, like Marcus Smart's been out, I think those minutes make more sense essentially to go to Vando than to Dalton, because even with the spacing and scoring that Dalton theoretically provides, he hasn't been offering a whole lot of either one of them, other than, I guess, in garbage time.
Yeah, I would agree.
But Dalton profiles, I think, more towards what JJ generally values. And I think JJ's a good coach. I'm not saying that I think he's lost his mind with this.
He's
I guess
certainly not the first coach to struggle to find ways to keep Jared Vanderbilt on the floor.
Look, I see the situation clearly differently in some ways than JJ does. So,
just to kind of set it up, so we noted the Giannis situation, the assumption at this point that the wheels are officially in motion for Giannis to relocate. It's pretty clear Milwaukee, while they've fallen under 500, they have no real path to contention over the next few years. And Giannis is, he's over 30 now. Like, he's not like a 26-year-old guy with a little bit of time, so it's certainly understandable from his perspective. The other player that is going to be available, not technically available yet.
Really. This just made me laugh. This comment: Nepo for Nepo trade. Antetokounmpo brothers for James, father and son.
I actually was hoping for something like that earlier today. Like, let's make the money work.
That is
first
actually
ever brothers for father-son trade in NBA history. The other part of the potential acquisition market right now is Chris Paul, who, in what can only be described as a very strange story, was released by the Clippers.
No, he's not been released.
Sent home. He was sent home.
He's basically
been released yet.
He's basically exiled.
Yes, he was sent home from Atlanta, where the Clippers are playing on Wednesday. He was sent home like in the middle of the night. They exiled him in the dead of night. And like James Harden, Kawhi Leonard woke up the next day and learned that, or at least allegedly learned that, Chris Paul wasn't going to be on the team anymore. And so he's always tied to the Lakers. He's certainly more easily gettable than Giannis. Let's talk about both of these guys next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But I'm going to be honest, getting tickets, usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open up, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pick a game, tap a section, and then you have your tickets locked in within minutes. There's no confusion. There's no hunting for any fine print. Why? Because the prices include fees up front, which I love. So there's no last-second surprises at the checkout. You can take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time.
I think we can level set expectations here. We like to make the joke, Andy, that every player that is available anywhere is a future Laker. The photo, everybody's got the Photoshops ready to go, particularly easy in the age of AI.
Just use the one that you've had for Giannis for like 3 or 4 years. It'll still work.
Just make him wear, which one did we have? Thanasis? Which Antetokounmpo was ours?
We had Kostas.
Kostas, right. Just wear your Kostas jersey. It's close enough. So the avenues to getting Giannis to LA, even if Giannis were to say to the Bucks, I want to be traded to the Lakers, even then it would still be very difficult because the Bucks don't have to say yes. And the Lakers simply can't put together an offer that could compete with Oklahoma City, were they interested? I don't think they'll actually do it.
I would be stunned if OKC did.
I mean, how much better do they need to get? It's but the team that really makes the most sense in terms of both draft capital, young players to offer, and a team that really could use that one other guy to push them into the upper stratosphere is San Antonio. So if Giannis were willing to go to San Antonio, that could work out.
I think the Hawks could really
the
be
Hawks, if he were willing to go there. The Knicks are part of this conversation, have already kicked the tires on Giannis, but the Lakers simply don't have the stuff that you could offer to make this work.
Certainly not midseason.
No, not midseason. I will say, though, Giannis potentially coming off the market does impact the Lakers, even if they're not the team that ultimately lands him, just because it reshapes the way the next couple summers presumably will play out. If Giannis isn't on the free agent market, not this summer, but the following summer, that changes everybody's strategies. Jokic isn't on the free agent. And so knowing those guys could be gone and off the market could impact how the Lakers approach this summer, this trade deadline, which I think is good news for Lakers fans.
Well, just to break this down a little bit further so people understand precisely why the Lakers, at least in a midseason deal, I think it would be impossible for them to come up with a competitive offer like to beat the rest of the league. I mean,
not as long as Nico Harrison doesn't work there.
No, and unfortunately, he's never getting hired anywhere again. But they only have one first-round pick, like outright, that they can trade right now. And the best player that they have right now, who they're not going to trade Luka, and LeBron has a no-trade clause, is Austin. Austin is both too old for, I think, what the Bucks need. Like, Austin is 27 now. And even if you think Austin is good enough to be the number one guy for a championship contending team or whatever, the Bucks are in such a bad position to start building around Austin. By the time they even had a worthy team around Reaves, like, you're talking he's 31, 32. I would say that's generously the best way to do it. And also, Austin is a potential walk-away free agent. And the best player in your trade for the best player in franchise history can't be a guy that is a flight risk. So unless you're working out some type of 3-team deal where Austin goes somewhere where the other team, through back channeling, is pretty damn sure that Austin is going to re-up with them, like, on a lot of different levels, he doesn't fit what the Bucks are looking for. And he's the only player on the Lakers roster that would even be up for consideration, that would even be sort of appealing to Milwaukee. So
just keep in mind, like, a Dalton Connect type. Right now, Dalton is somebody you need to sort of attach a first round or two to get people to take him. So, that doesn't necessarily help.
Austin, to me at least, makes no sense for Milwaukee.
None. I do love how you use flight risk as if Reaves is out on bail and just, may
tell you something. If he feels like he's going to be spending his prime years in Milwaukee during a rebuild, you're damn right it's going to feel like a convict trying to escape, like, while on parole or whatever. It's going to feel like the same thing.
Can't golf on off days in Milwaukee. You can do it in LA any time of year.
Just saying, man, I would treat him like somebody dealing with an APB, because he's going to be looking to flee the scene like someone fleeing the cops.
Let's talk about CP3, because I agree with you. Giannis, we'll see how this develops, but however it develops, the real impact, as I mentioned, is on how it affects the way the Lakers operate this season, and I think most importantly into this summer, more than anything Giannis specific. Chris Paul, though, is a name that has long been associated with the Lakers. He is going to be available. The Lakers could theoretically pick him up, I believe, about halfway through January. It's either January or February. Like they can't do it right away, but they can use that 15th spot in a few weeks. A lot of teams will be in that situation. Chris Paul presumably will take his time to find another destination, assuming there is one.
He's got to get let go first.
He's got to get let go first. I think people will be very interested in the additional reporting that comes out of this. It was, he reported that he and Ty Lue hadn't been talking like for weeks, which is awkward.
He's barely been on the team for weeks.
That is correct.
That essentially means they haven't been talking. Like we're only 8 weeks the most into the season.
Yep. I've seen, some reports that, like there were, clashes with, the Chris Paul leadership style wasn't really sitting well. It's, he's not playing very much, which probably has a little bit to do with it. It does change the context, but, I think it was Shams who tweeted out that Chris Paul was essentially being Chris Paul. It just wasn't landing. Wasn't landing well. And now he was dispatched in the middle of the night. Were you the Lakers, Andy? What would you kick the tires on Chris Paul? I mean, even with that 15th spot and a need for a guard?
No. How many more times do I need to say no?
Well, I'm just finishing my sentence, and I just want to see how many times you can say it.
Look, I like Chris Paul. I have a lot of respect for him, certainly as a player, and I had interactions with him throughout the years. I've liked him personally. I certainly was mad as bleep when David Stern vetoed that deal. I was really mad about that. And I feel like the entire basketball world, not just Laker fans, but we were robbed at the opportunity of seeing prime Kobe or back into prime Kobe with prime Chris Paul playing together. I think it would have been amazing.
Insane.
All that being said,
that Scared Straight commercial he made with Blake Griffin was great.
Still one of the funniest sports commercials ever. Think about the needs for this Lakers team, like the most pressing needs: athleticism, wing presence on either side of the ball, speed, youth. You got to go down about maybe 9 or 10 deep on this list before you even start talking yourself into things that Chris Paul actually provides that they don't need. They don't need the basketball IQ. Like if LeBron, Luka, that ain't smart enough for you, I'm sorry, your team's too dumb. Chris Paul can't help you. I'm being honest, and Chris Paul's a basketball genius, but if those two can't make it happen, Chris Paul ain't going to make it work. They don't need more ball handlers. If anything, they have enough difficulty trying to figure out meshing the three main ones that they have. There really is nothing, and Chris isn't even shooting the way he used to. There really is nothing that he brings to the table. They shouldn't need the leadership. I will say this, though. It is insane to me that the Clippers, who know very well what the Chris Paul experience is, and he brought them some of the best years this franchise has ever had. He wanted to retire a Clipper. I think in a lot of ways it is a god-awful look on them that this franchise with very little history that they can celebrate, even if Chris Paul was chirping a lot, that you would do him this unceremoniously, given your paltry history to begin with. It is a really bad look.
I mean, at least wait until the sun comes up.
I just want to know, what were they expecting? This is who Chris Paul's always been. In theory, you brought him in to do a lot of this leadership because you don't get it from Kawhi Leonard. You don't get it from James Harden. And if you weren't looking for that from Chris Paul, I know they had expectations that he'd be closer to the version that was just in San Antonio, but one would think that the vocal stylings, which is well documented, it wears on people after a while. I think Chris Paul is one of the best floor raisers in recent NBA history, but there's a history of this wearing after a while. But I don't know what else they were expecting from this. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't really either. I think they just thought it would be like a good story, perhaps. Then like, decent. They also didn't think they were going to be, they did win by 23 on Wednesday. So, maybe, losing the voice, lighten the mood. I don't know.
I mean, they were also playing a Hawks team that was missing
a lot of
folks. Lot of dudes.
I mean, that same team beat the Lakers. So,
well, in fairness, the Lakers weren't trying.
It's one of these things where, like, all of these decisions were made in the context of a team that was supposed to be near the top of the Western Conference as opposed to near the bottom. Like they did not, this was their 6th win, this game in Atlanta on Wednesday. And so if you told them they were going to be 6-16 in early December, I don't think they would have signed Chris Paul. It's probably true. Use that roster spot for someone else. So what were they?
Well, I don't know how many people they actually could have used it.
I don't know, but like, they it would have been open. I don't know. But I think when you ask the question, what were they expecting? I think first and foremost, they weren't expecting to be this bad. But we'll see. I agree with you though. It just, that ship has passed. It has sailed. The possibility it just doesn't serve the Lakers, I think, particularly well to have CP3 on the roster. So anyway, Locked On Lakers on YouTube, Andes, where you can go hang out with over 37,000 subscribers. We will, of course, be back after the game on Thursday night. We'll probably go live for those of you who like to join the post games in the sort of 9 o'clock-ish area. So keep an eye out for that. Pacific time. If you're a subscriber to the channel, I think you get an alert for these types of things. So another good reason to subscribe. And we'll see everybody after the game.